Now the Balatanya says, Shalom Chevra. Kemashal haben, and we mentioned this, we're just seeing it inside, just learning the words, saying the words of the Balatanya, just enlighten our eyes, wisen us. Kemashal haben, like the analogy of the son, hanimshach memoyach ha'av, which is coming out of the mind of the father. She'afilu tziparnei raglov, that even the toenails of the kid, even the toenails of the son, which is compared to the mind of the son, what's more exalted? Your son's amazingly developed mind or his lowly toenails? Not a trick question. The mind is more exalted than the toenails. So if you look at the child, you would say, oh, your mind is very exalted, your toenails are very unexalted. But the truth is that they come from the same place. The toenail would probably pipe in and say, yeah, but I come from the same place as you do. And what's that? Of course, the mind of the Father. And in the mind of the Father, they were completely unified. Nishavim etipa zu mamish. They both came from that same drop. They're both completely formed at once from that same drop. And al yedei shiyasa tisha chadashim bebet na'im, while the child is in the mother's womb for those 9 months, what is occurring? Besides the child's getting bigger, but what's occurring is there's an unfolding and unwinding, that everything that was in the mind of the father that turned into the seed that now is in the mother is now becoming the genesis of the child. Is now you're seeing the whole package of that child expressed outwards, from the mind to the eyes to the ears and the nose and the mouth and the heart. It's amazing to see that in an ultrasound, that the heartbeat is, I believe, 8 weeks. It might be a little bit more, but it's very early on. 9 weeks, maybe 10. It's very early. I have to just double check that. But very early on in the development of the child, you see the beating of the heart. It's amazing. My wife always says, it just looks like a blob. But it doesn't look like it was always cute. Like, I had a student and he came, he was very excited because it was their first child, and he came and he showed me the ultrasound pictures. They're very excited. So the wife is like, I think it looks like my husband. It was like this blob it looks like my husband. It looks like his side of the family. But she was like excited, but I wanted it to look like my side. I'm like, I don't know, like it's hard to tell from the picture, but it's literally a blob, like it's just like a white blob, sort of. Parents are excited about their children. And I was encouraging, of course. Oh wow, look, see, I see that. I really could see that. But you do see a heartbeat, and that's amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing. That's why we're not going to talk about it now. But abortion is not a simple thing. It's not a simple thing. It's a much bigger topic. How the Torah looks at that. It's a very complicated question. But one thing is for sure. That child is there. That child is there, and that soul was brought into the world, and there's a lot going on, much more than a person realizes. And there's it's going to upset me if I really talk about this, but there are wicked people in the world right now who want to even allow for post-birth abortions. Now you're going to say, what's that? That's called murder? And I would say, yes, that's called murder. Their claim is that up to a certain amount of months, if the child does not have the faculty of memory and he can't remember certain things, then you could just abort because he's not alive yet. That's just called murder. That is plain as cold blood murder. Post-birth abortion, it's called an oxymoron. There's no saying post-birth abortion, that's called murder. And therefore the Torah is very careful with life. Very careful, because very early on there are very real signs of life, and there is a soul, there's a being that's now very much brought into the world. And in the context that we're talking about, all of that was included in the thought of the father, which is included in the seed. The mother is just unwinding that. Which one thing goes for sure is that we can take from this is that people have to be very careful. I'm not talking about rape. That's another, Hashem should help us. And probably those people should be locked up or castrated. That's not our question right now. But one thing is for sure, people have to be very careful. It's not a simple thing to just say, we're just going to do whatever we want. And like we could just, we'll just, we just go to the clinic and we'll just, if we decide not to go through with this. That's not a simple thing. That's a very serious thing going on. And we're not going to elaborate during this shir now. But this needs to be really considered very, very in a heavy way. For our context, what we're talking about is that the entire child is there in potential in the seed, and the mother is unwinding it. And therefore, the head and the heart and the nose and everything, the pancreas and the spleen is all there and came from the same source, came from the same place. It's all there in potential form, and the mother is unwinding it and developing it. And what we're bringing out is that all of it comes from the same source, from the same seed, okay? Now, while it's in the mother for those 9 months, the yarda memadrega lemadrega, it goes down from level to level. This is talking about the idea of tzimtzum. What does it mean that it's getting downgraded? That's a funny way to say it. I would have said that it's getting upgraded. Look, the child's getting bigger. He's getting more expanded out. What do you mean when it goes down from level to level?
So it becomes less of a soul, more of a body.
Oh, Eitan, that was so beautifully said. Downgraded means more physical. Downgraded means this child, if I trace him back to where he comes from, he's more spiritual at his source. He's totally unified. It's actually a downgrade that now he's expanding into physicality. He's becoming there's more multiplicity. Let's say it differently. When I see the child, I could have a hava amina. I could actually assume that the head and the eyes and they're different. Well, they are different, but I could think that they don't come from the same place. They're so vastly different. The closer something is to the source, the more you see that it's unified. The further away it moves from the source, the more you see that it's becoming differentiated. That's called a downgrade. That's called a downgrade. It's become differentiated. But if I trace the child back, the closer he is to his source, the more unified he is, the more spiritual he is. It's a downgrade when we talk about something moving away from its source and developing more delineation. Now, of course, that's good because now there's a child that can grow in the world and do great things and change the world. By the way, all of this is the secret of creation. As creation exists inside of God, we're unified with God. As creation precedes what's called the secret of tzimtzum, which is a Kabbalistic concept, how Hashem is downgrading His light, that more creation is seen, even though you would think this is not a downgrade, it's an upgrade. Look, there's a world now. Well, there's a world, but it conceals the fact that it's unified in God. Use this analogy. This is the most profound analogy we have. That all of creation has been downgraded because now it's physicalized. But the closer you move up in the spiritual worlds, it's like a child. While the child, like my dear friends who came with that picture of the blob, and it looks like my husband. So it's more unified. You don't really see all the stuff yet. So it's more one. The more the child develops, it's amazing seeing videos and images of this. We actually see the child as he's going through his genesis and he's developing. It's amazing to see all the parts were there and then they just are developing. It's amazing. Some of these videos they have, just watching the child through the 9 months, what that looks like. But that's called a downgrade because now I see more multiplicity. An upgrade is I trace it back to the source. A downgrade is called creation. you have to understand when I say downgrade, I mean in a certain respect, because now I see many things. The upgrade is returning creation back to its source in God. That's called the secret of learning about the mitzvah of the unity of Hashem, which we say specifically 2 and 3 times a day. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. That Hashem is one, and there's nothing but. What do you mean? I see a bunch of body parts and limbs and stuff and stenders and plexiglass and tables. No, that's just the child as he's been downgraded. It's been expanded out. But if you trace creation back to its source, you see it like the drop going back into the Father's mind. Okay? So while the child is in the mother, that's what the Lashon, the Balatanya, the yard madrega, it goes down from level to level, essentially becoming more delineated. Lishtanois, changing, and new body parts appearing, and they have all these books. There's a famous one. What's it called? It's like a bestseller. What to Expect While You're Expecting. It's a good name. It's like in every basically home worldwide. It's great. It has a certain humor that anybody who's pregnant kind of needs, because it's not easy. By the way, guys can't talk about pregnancy. They're not allowed to, because we don't do it. And therefore the amount of respect that we have for our wives, and the awe and just the love and compassion and that you need to give your wife it goes beyond words. You should also give good words, but it's beyond what they go through. So, and this is a good book because it just has a certain humor behind it that many people need while they're going through something so amazing. So all the changes that's happening while the child is expanding. So in that book they give you pictures like, this is what your baby looks like. Right now he's the size of a blueberry, and now he became like a peach. And it's like kind of funny like that. You need humor, like I said, to get through some of the challenges of developing a child is an amazing thing. By the way, just think about that. A woman is growing a human being inside of her. Is there anything more godly? That's one of the reasons why we say that women in many ways are more perfected than men, because a woman grows a human being. She's giving life. She's giving life. That is godly. Who creates life? God. And women can basically, of course, Hashem is the one that blows the soul in, but the woman is the one who's literally giving birth. And therefore the amount of respect and the amount of awe and the amount of love and compassion that you have to give your wife is there's no end. There's no end to just what you have to do. Of course, all the other stuff. If she's craving anything, you better run. I mean run. It could be 2 a.m, 3 a.m. If she wants pickles, you better find pickles. There's no answer like, I don't know if anything's open. You can't say that. You get in the car and you find pickles, my friend. I don't care if there's a lockdown. You better find some pickles. I don't get a drone to fly, an Amazon drone to deliver some pickles, because that's just what's needed. Then the Gemara says that if a woman is having a craving, you better find a way to get that. Even on Yom Kippur, I'm not kidding you, it says that a woman could have food on Yom Kippur if she's really craving it. Yeah, it represents there's a need, a deep need for her. It's not like a joke. Okay, she needs Ben and Jerry's. I was craving it. Like I said, guys, we don't understand this. Women there's a language. There's something very deep there. That bottom line, you better get some pickles, and you don't answer. Nothing's open. That is forbidden to use those words. Nothing's open. You find it, and don't worry, God will help you. Somehow you'll you get in the car, and like someone will have a pickle stand open, down the block at 2 a.m. I mean it. God will help you find pickles. Or just stock up and have a lot in the house. And other stuff. And you never know what it's going to be. But there's certain classic things. Peanut butter, pickles, ice cream. And they might all come at once. But you have no idea. I'm telling you, there's no rules. That's the only rule. There's no rules. it's a good thing also for the guys to have a certain sense of humor because it's a lot, and you got to get the job done. And bottom line, take care of your wife. She's amazing. She's a superhero bearing children. So while the child is in the mother, the child is going through all this transformation. And the mother is literally allowing the child to grow fingernails, and you can see these things on ultrasounds, the growing limbs. The im kol zeh, and this is the part we're going to talk about next time. Even while the child is going through this genesis and expanding and developing delineation in all of its body parts, it's still connected, kishura umiyuchedes beyichud nifla, in a wondrous connection, ve'otzim b'mehusa ve'atzmusa harishon. It still is connected completely in a profoundly powerful way to its original source, which of course is shahaisa tipas moyach ha'av. It's still connected to the original source, which it came from the mind of the Father. One of the ways to understand that, I'm going to develop this more, is that the child, right? The fingernails, where do they get their life force from?
The head.
The head. The head is the source of all the action, right? Where does the head get its life force from? The child. From the father's head. The father's head is the source of the whole package of the kid. So now you've got this kid. Where does the life force of the kid come from? Comes from the head. The head of the kid is very connected to the mind of the father. So you have this amazing connection. All your body is getting its life force from the mind. The mind of the child is coming directly from the mind of the father, which means even as the kid expands out, he's still getting, as a being, all of his life force from his mind, which comes directly from the mind of the father. So in a certain way, the child is still connected, even after he's a fully expanded person, connected to the mind of the father. And that's one of the reasons why many people see that they act a lot like their dad. They have a certain connection to their father. There's a certain interesting connection. I remember being outside with one of the guys a few days ago. So he's like, something happened and he said something, he's like, oh my goodness, that was my dad. He's like, I just was my dad. Sometimes it happens. Oftentimes it happens when it's a situation, maybe there's a stress, and you just respond. And you feel like you responded in a very instinctual way, and you realize, oh my goodness, like something, I have this connection. So we're going to talk about this more. This is an amazing topic. All of this is going to teach us about how Hashem, when Hashem, so to speak, is creating, remember we said creation is like a human. All the souls from the beginning of time to the end of time is like this one giant body, like we explained. So all of that, even the souls at the end of time, are all one being. Where are we all coming from? The mind of the Father, Hashem. And even though we've expanded out over all the generations to be delineated, we really are all, if you trace us back, unified in the mind of the Father Hashem. We should be zeicher to think about this and to have the mitzvah of Yichud Hashem b'mher v'yamein. Amen. Have a wonderful day, everyone.